Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you to our district partners for taking part in this conversation. So this is something we did last year and we try to do annually. It doesn't always happen, but we do try. My name is Jocelyn Ryan. I am the co-chair of the Schools Committee of the South Orange Maplewood Community Coalition on Race. Also on with us is Carol Barry Austin, my co-chair, Nancy Gagne, the executive director of the coalition, and Audrey Rowe, program director. And we have with us today from the school district, Mr. Bing, our new superintendent, Dr. Gilbert, the assistant superintendent for access and equity, and Mr. Leroy Johnson, who is the supervisor for preschool education. And why we try to do this is because you guys are often the first people in our community that incomers meet, and we want to make sure that you understand what's going on in our school district, how the intentional integration plan works, how students are placed, and how the preschool program works, because often those families have very young children. And we want to make sure you guys understand how the preschool program works, how close we are to our universal number, how likely it is they'll get a spot, and so that people don't come and then assume they'll get a spot in the school across the street and then get very disappointed and angry when that doesn't happen. So we're just going to give you a very brief, well, here's our agenda, first of all. So I'm going to welcome you. Then Mr. Bing is going to talk about himself. He's going to introduce himself. He's going to talk about his vision for the district. And then Dr. Gilbert will take you through the integration plan, where we stand on that. And then Mr. Johnson will talk about the preschool program. And there will be an opportunity at the end for you guys to ask questions. And you can do that in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So yes, basics of Zoom, we all know this, it's been a while. So please mute yourself when you're not speaking so the camera doesn't automatically go to you. Keep your camera on if you can. We understand, for instance, that Mr. Johnson's calling in from a phone. He may not be able to keep his camera on when he's speaking, but he'll try. We are recording, so by participating, you are giving us consent. And then a brief overview of the coalition. Some of you may not be familiar with us, and it is our mission to build a community. Sorry, I can't see my own screen because, oh no, now I've messed it all up. Hang on one second. Okay, can everybody still see my screen? Is
yes.
that good? Okay, great.
Yes.
So our mission is to build and sustain a community that's racially, culturally, and socially integrated and truly inclusive, where there's equity and equality for all. And we aspire to be a community that is a model for the nation, where everyone participates fully in the community's economic, political, civic, educational, and cultural life. And this is how we are structured. We have a board of trustees, volunteer committees like the schools committee that work on our 5 focus areas, and we have 4 staff members. So the difference for us between diversity and integration, we work on intentional integration, where we try to make sure that people of different races and ethnicities don't just live next to each other, but they interact, form friendships, participate fully in community life. And we do that through advocacy, public policy, through many of the organizations in our 2 towns. These are some of the things we have worked on. We have advocated for years for integrated schools. We're finally actually getting there, for inclusive school curricula, diversity in teaching staff, and eventually, hopefully, the elimination of the minority academic achievement gap. We work on demographics report that many of you will have seen. We do conversations with realtors, and then we do trainings for businesses, district staff. We also have developed a loan called the Wealth Gap Equalizer Loan Program, and that is for Black and non-white Hispanic home buyers who are coming to South Orange Maplewood, and it's to help them buy their first home. These are the goals of our committee, that the school district will be stably integrated with not just overall, but also within classrooms, levels in schools, that the staff would be racially and culturally diverse, and that students of all races are expected and encouraged to excel in a community that is supportive of all its students. So I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to pass it over to Mr. Bing. And I welcome Mr. Bing again. And please introduce yourself and tell us what you hope for our district. Thank you. I know Mr. Bing has called in, so I don't know if he's having difficulty getting on. I see that he's muted. Dr. Gilbert, can you check in with him, please?
Yes, ma'am. Hold on just a second.
Thank you, sir. While we're waiting, does anybody have any questions about the coalition or the schools committee?
He said he's not muted, so I don't know. We just can't hear him for some reason.
It's showing him as muted. Audrey,
But
can you unmute him?
It's okay. It's showing you. Okay. I'll tell him.
I no longer see the phone number that I saw earlier.
Oh, here we
Jocelyn.
go. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't see the phone number either.
I see him.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Can you hear me now?
We
Yes,
got you now,
thank
sir.
you.
Okay.
Hi all. We got you now. Thank you. All right. Just thank you. I want to just thank the coalition for putting this together. They've been a wonderful partner. In my short tenure, which is probably going on about 100+ days at this point, a little bit about myself, going on about 30 years in public education. Majority of those years spent in New Jersey, about 15 of those years as a superintendent. I joined South Orange Maplewood sometime in June after tenure as a county superintendent in the state of New York, Dutchess County. Previous to that, I was in Jersey City for a decade. You know, I have a wealth of experience, to say the least. And when South Orange Maplewood School District opened up, it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I grew up in Union. About 50% of my family grew up in South Orange and Maplewood, so a good part of my youth were spent in both towns, so I'm quite familiar with Maplewood and South Orange, and have obviously witnessed the significant growth of both. My father's also a graduate of Seton Hall University. I am also a certificate program graduate of Seton Hall University as well. Obviously, I have a pretty strong investment in the school district as well as the two towns. Really, in sum, I think Coalition of Race stole a little part of my thunder in regards to our work in the district. We really want to create a comprehensive pre-K through career programming that really connects with the rich resources we have in South Orange and Maplewood, and develop some really strong partnerships with those resources. You know, in regards to the statement from the coalition in regards to closing achievement gaps, that is our number one priority. We have a very strong program. We rate very high in the state, yet we do have some achievement gaps that still remain, especially amongst our African American and Latino students. So that is some intentional work that we are doing currently and will continue to do. We are looking right now at really restructuring how we do our work. We want to tap into the professionals that we have in district. For those of you who don't know, we have one of the highest rates of professionals with advanced degrees in the state. Amongst our teachers, I believe about 2/3, maybe a little less, have master's or above degrees. It's quite a large number. We are extremely proud of that. One of the reasons why achievement scores right now, and as we just had a board meeting last night, and you know, one of the main objectives we talked about is really to change the narrative around the district. As you know, we've been in the headlines probably a little too much, so we're trying to turn that around and really work with university and a couple other colleges and universities to focus on innovative programming, whether that be increasing the amount of students that are graduating with college credits, affording students a career and technical education, allowing students to get industrial certifications, work-based learning. We're really trying to personalize the education for our students, especially by the time when they get into high school. We want to create those pathways that are going to keep students engaged and are going to ensure their success in college, university, or if they choose to go right to a career. As for pre-K through 8, obviously you'll hear a lot from Leroy, but I'll speak for Kevin on this. We're very proud of our pre-K program. It continues to expand. We continue to look at innovative options for that age range. And then as we move to K through 8, we really are focusing on early literacy, pre-K through 3, and then 4 through 8, project-based learning, and really getting the kids to get used to being pushed around critical thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. For us, it's just not about content. It's really the creation of 21st century learners. So again, I appreciate the coalition hosting this event, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mr. Bing. So now, Dr. Gilbert, over to you to talk about the integration plan and where we stand.
Thank you so much for having us. And then I just take a personal privilege to say how excited we are to have Mr. Bing in our district. He's bringing us a lot of energy, a lot of ideas, and we're just looking forward to where this school district is on its way to with our leadership at the top. This Triple I, or an intentional integration initiative, or Triple I as we call it, I didn't arrive to South Orange and Maplewood until May of 2022. That was right in the middle of the first year that that intentional integration was initiated. It was initiated in the fall of 2021, and it began with our kindergarten students. Those who are familiar with South Orange and Maplewood know that there were several legal things that were happening in the district around equity issues that pertain to our district. And one of the concerns was that our elementary schools were not as diverse as they should have been. And so that board, prior to the 2021, initiated an intentional integration model that modified a Berkeley model that was used to help Seattle and other school districts, and I think Louisville, Kentucky, to help them with their integration pieces. The difference why we call it modified is that originally the Berkeley model utilized race. Race is not a determining factor in our Triple I algorithm that is used for our students. Now, although race is not a factor in there, we do monitor that to make sure to see what our racial demographics look like in our particular school, but race is not factored in to the algorithm. So whenever a new student comes into our district, let's say kindergarten students, we have two major bandwidths that we do a lot of that go into our integration algorithm. Kindergarten, where once they leave pre-K, we have a large number of students who begin kindergarten. And then we do the algorithm again for our rising sixth graders. So the fifth graders go into the algorithm again, because we also want to make sure our two middle schools showed our diversity, and we only have one high school. So there's no need to have an algorithm that goes that everyone pushes into our high school. So new kindergarten parent fills out a registration form. We have different categories that we ask them, and then the information that they give us goes into an algorithm that's being managed by the ALS group. And within this algorithm, we don't know all of the formulas and stuff that are inside the algorithm, but what we do know is that parental educational level is factored in, parental income is factored in, sibling preference, if there's a sibling in the particular elementary school, is factored in, and proximity is factored in. This is when we move from neighborhood schools into this model. We try to honor the closest school as much as possible, but that is not the only determining factor on what placement is. And so Once that information is given, we send the names of the students to the ALS group. They put the students into their algorithm based on the information that was coming through for registration, and they send us the placement for those particular students and what particular elementary school they should go to. We're trying to get those students to the closest school as we can, but understanding we try to keep what we call a 5% variance between, well, they're assigned what we call an SES tier. So since we're not using race, we are using social economic status. And that SES tier is what comes out from the algorithm based on the encoding of information. Now you might ask, well, is it mandatory for people to give us their educational level? Is it mandatory for the parents to give us their income? Those two things are optional. If parents choose not to put that in on their registration form, what the ALS groups use is the census data for the neighborhood area, and that is what determines the educational level and the income level for families who don't give us that information. So we don't make it mandated that we get that information on the front end, but based on the formula and what the ALS groups do, they use the census information on what the educational level and what the income level for that particular neighborhood is to fill that void if that information is not available for the student. So it comes out with, we get an SES tier number, which is SES 1, which is our highest. I'm sorry, I got to get this right. SES tier 1 is our lowest, SES tier 2 is our middle, and SES tier 3 is our highest level, right? And so based on what that number, I might get that, I always get those confused, but you get the point. Based on what that SES tier number comes out to be, then the students are placed based on that into their school, trying to get to their closest school. Now, what I was trying to say earlier is that we try to keep a 5% variance in our elementary schools between each of those tiers. So students are placed in their closest school until they bump up until that 5% radius variance piece, and then they go to their next closest school. And if their next closest school is up against that 5% variance, then we go to the next. So it gives, the algorithm gives us the closest school all the way to the fifth area of the school. And then that makes a determination based on the variance if that SES tier can go into that particular school. We are in year 4 of doing our intentional integration. Year 1 was only kindergarten. That was the 21-22 school year. Year 2 was kindergarten, first and sixth graders. That was the 22-23 school year. Year 3, which was last school year, 23-24, was K1, 2, 6, and 7. And so this year's kiddos is year 4 of our integration, and that's K through 3, 6th and 8th graders. Next year will be year 5 of the integration piece, and that will include K through 4 and 6 through 8. And then for the 26-27 school year, intentional integration will have completed that particular cycle, in that all of our grades in kindergartens K through 5 will have gone through the algorithm, and then 6 through 8 will go through the algorithm. Now you ask, what happens after kindergarten if new students come in any of the grade bands that are part of our integration? Say we have a new second grader coming into our school district. That new second grader at registration is put through the algorithm. We don't re-put the entire second grade in. Once they go through it in kindergarten, they don't go through it again, and they won't go through it again until 5th grade, when we have to reshuffle and do it again for our middle schools. Now, on top of that, there were 2 schools in our district, Marshall Elementary, which was a K2 school, and Delia Bolden, formerly known as Jefferson Elementary School, that was a 3-5 school. Part of the legal settlements that we did around going to integration meant that we had to go to all K5 schools. We had some construction coming in, so all of our elementary schools were built to sustain up to 5th grade, and we had to come up with an unpairing for our Marshall School, which was K2, and then Delia Bolden, which was 3-5. What we mean by unpairing is we had to divide those students up that one day would make Marshall a K-5 school and Delia Bolden a K-5 school. We have done 2 years of that unpairing, and this year, going in for next year, will be the final year of the unpairing. So for the 25-26 school year, all of our elementary schools will be K-5. And what that unpairing means is when the students at Marshall reach the 2nd grade and become rising 3rd graders, we have to unpair them out of Marshall and distribute them equally over into Delia Bolden to create the new grades that they have at Delia Bolden. Now, presently right now, Delia Bolden has a kindergarten, a 1st grade, and a kindergarten and 1st grade. Next year, they'll have their 2nd grade, and they will be K-5. This year, Marshall has kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and 4th grade. And then next year, they will have their 5th grade. And then that unpairing would have been completed. There are two policies. If people want to know what drives our work, where they can go to our policies. Policy 5120, which is our assignment of students policy, kind of outlines a little bit around what III looks like. And then 5124 is our internal transfer policy with a regulation on how we handle when parents request to transfer. Many times they're trying to transfer to their closest school. And just to give you a heads up, when it comes up with that, this year, all of our kindergarten families were automatically placed on a waiting list to their closest school if they didn't get their closest school based on their placement for the algorithm. And so what that waiting list does is that if seats make themselves available throughout the course of the year, those families who are on the waiting list can move into their closest school. Mr. Bing, I think that covered it. Did I miss anything, sir?
No, I think you hit it all, Dr. Gilbert.
All right. So I know that was a lot, so I'll stand for questions, or if you want to wait till after Mr. Johnson talk, you just kind of let me know how you want to do this.
Thanks, Dr. Gilbert. I think we'll open it up to questions on integration before we move to Mr. Johnson. Before we do, I just wanted to add one thing. I know that on the GSMLS, the individual schools in our district were the only option in the drop-down menu for school assignment. We, the coalition, asked if they could change that to talk about how the integration plan worked so that people would understand that there was no guaranteed school placement. And all they gave us was they added SOMSD III to the school options. And so they, sorry, Mr. Bing, I just muted you. So they added SOMSD III to the drop-down options, but they left all of the neighborhood schools on there. So I guess we would ask you guys if you could also possibly speak to GSMLS and see if you can advocate we were in a stronger position for something other than Tuscan, Marshall, Delia Bolden, all those options. Okay, so not seeing any raised hands, I am going to move to Mr. Johnson to talk about preschool.
Of course, I want to thank the coalition for the opportunity to speak in front of prospective families. My name is Mr. Johnson. I'm Director of Early Childhood Education for the South Orange Maplewood School District, and I'm happy to share some information regarding preschool. So I will sort of discuss some of the topics that are most popular, and of course, at the end, I will address any questions that any families may have. So our preschool program is consistent throughout our district, offering the same access to education, whether placed in a district school or one. This means that we have access to the same curriculum, individualized programming needs of our preschool students for our through our staff, and all schools have the same district oversight as it pertains to our program, which includes study team for special education, our instructional coaches, which support our teachers in the classroom, our family involvement specialist, who offers a great deal of opportunities through our program for family involvement. So families who are part of our program will receive different opportunities to participate in things for between home and school connections. So whether that's handling challenging behaviors within the home environment or different sort of supports that families request. We put a survey out every year, which is a needs assessment, to sort of collect information to ask what it is families want. We also have a new school social worker for preschool who supports students within the classroom environment and works with families as well. That person also supports our family workers who are employees of our provider sites. And so there's a great deal of resources there to support both families and students. And then we have our administrative supervision. We offer a 6-hour full day preschool program that provides various learning experiences. Some of the activities are built into our daily schedule. They consist of both small and large group learning activities. We have outdoor gross motor recess play, where students sort of work on their gross motor, their large muscle skills, so climbing, jumping, skipping, hopping. We're very intentional about what students do outside. We have opening and closing group activities. We also offer snack, and there's a time where students are able to nap. And that's all sort of the components of our program. The program we use, our curriculum is called Tools of the Mind. It's one of the 4 state-approved curriculums that follows the methodology that students learn from more capable peers and adults. And that's why our classrooms are mixed age groups, so 3 and 4-year-olds. The state did recently, I want to say a few weeks ago, I got notification that there are additional curriculums that are now approved through the state. So that's tremendous gains on that end. There is a tedious process that curriculums go through to determine what's most appropriate for students. And then districts from there are able to select from those options. Our teachers here follow developmentally appropriate teaching practices for preschool age students, which involves the implementation of hands-on play-based tactile experiences, while they differentiate their instruction to various learning styles of all of our students. Some of the questions that I typically get are preschool locations. So the preschool options I will speak to are based on the various programs we have. So while all of our preschool classrooms implement the same curriculum, which is Tools of the Mind, we have general education programming. We have inclusion programs for students who may have an IEP and are placed in our general education classrooms. And then we have self-contained programming. We currently have 9 preschools throughout our district, one which is comprised of our district school, Montrose Early Childhood Center. And then we have 8 preschool provider sites. And so those provider sites are La Petite Academy. There's one location in South Orange and one in Maplewood. Iris Early Childhood Center, Apple Core Learning Center, Village Babies, Zadie's of the Oranges, Beth El Preschool, Mickey Fried Preschool, and Curious Children. And our 2 new providers for this year have been our Beth El Preschool and Mickey Fried Preschool. So those are our 2 newest locations. Since my tenure here with the district, we have been able to expand each year, providing access to a free, appropriate public education for all students. Our universal number is 1,000. We are not there. Tremendous gains in being able to increase our student seating capacity each year. So that's some of the proud work that the district is proud of. I do want to talk about the process and the timeline. This has varied from year to year. It still remains close. The dates are kind of close each year, but that's based on when registration sort of opens up across the district, and then each sort of grade level gets an opportunity to register their students at a given time. So the preschool typically begins during the month of January. This is the time frame when families are encouraged to be invited process. So they begin by filling out the online pre-registration form during the preschool registration timeframe. And while there's a deadline in filling out the online registration form, the deadline is only in place to ensure an equitable process for participation. So families who register prior to the deadline will participate in our district's preschool lottery system, which determines consideration for participation. Students' families who have successfully completed the enrollment process will be notified of their opportunity to participate, and names will be called from the lottery list in chronological order until our program is at capacity. All of the families who register after the deadline will be placed on a waiting list, and they will be notified of their next steps if and when opportunities present itself. But that's after all students from the initial lottery have been placed. Families are typically notified of placements after the governor's address and when funding is solidified. So the governor typically gives his address, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in February. But that's not the only component. The state then has to allocate funds to each district for what their preschool funding will be. We also have to make sure that we receive executed contracts from any provider who is interested in partnering. And that typically happens closer to the end of the school year. And so families are typically notified of placement sometime during the summer recess. That gives us time to look at what capacity we have to place students. And then we also have to look at transportation needs. We have to go down the demographics of children. So it's a very lengthy process. But I will speak to the process by which schools are assigned. So schools are assigned based on program and availability, which means that students with special needs who have IEPs indicated in their general education, setting with accommodations and modifications will be placed in one of our inclusive classrooms. These classrooms have the capacity of 15 students per class and may not exceed 5 students with IEPs. Because of our expansion efforts, we try to keep at this point the classrooms no more than 3 students in our general education programming with IEPs, and that's just based on the fact that we've been able to expand. But years ago, we didn't have a great deal of classrooms, and so we wanted to make sure that we stayed within the parameters of what the practices are for having students in our inclusion programming. So now we try to keep it within 3.
And we lost Mr. Johnson.
Oh, am I still here?
You're still there. Maybe turn off your camera.
Oh, okay.
You just disappeared for a second.
Yeah, it's probably the service. So I want to make sure that I articulate everything. Is there a component that I missed, or is it just a brief?
No, it was just a brief. You just dropped off.
So I'll turn my camera off. I'm sorry, I'm a very personal person, so I like everyone to see me. But okay, I will do that. 1 second. Okay, can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so students who require, I guess I'll go into the self-contained programming will be placed in one of our 3 self-contained classrooms, and these classrooms have a smaller capacity, so a smaller class size where students all have IEPs within the classroom. And then finally, students who receive general education programming are placed in one of our general education classrooms. But it's important to note that preschool placement is not based on or proximity between home and school. Rather, it's closely aligned with our district's intentional integration initiative, which means that all of our team works diligently to help ensure our classrooms have well-balanced demographics and represent our entire district. So that's things like our age, race, gender, sort of some of those demographics. It's important that it represents our community and not just sort of like your neighborhood school. And we've seen great success with that. And all of our schools are diverse. And again, this is to the extent possible because we utilize a lottery system. So you really have to make sure you balance it based on what students you have to select from that pool. And that's why sometimes you'll see a little bit of a hesitation in providing placements, because you don't want to have, sort of all males or all females in one school and then one class. You want to look at all of those demographics. And so that's a big piece that sometimes can be a little frustrating to families, because they'll hear, well, I hear there's room over here, or I hear there's room over there. But we really have to make sure we have well-balanced classrooms. So we really do our best in doing so. I am proud to share with you guys that we have been able to release this year a lot of our placements prior to the beginning of the school year. I would say like maybe the week after the end of last year, early July is when families were notified of their placements. And then I spent a lot of time working with our team to ensure a next round happened prior to the start of the school year. And we were able to get through the entire lottery this year. Yesterday, between Monday and yesterday, we sent out additional opportunities for families to join from a second lottery that was run. It was about 61 students on that list. I was able to seat about half. I do suspect and I do anticipate that I may be able to get to everyone. So that's great news for our district. And so we just look forward to just filling those seats. Another question, I believe, is before and after care options. So before and after care options, before and or after care options available at all of our schools. But we have to understand that our private centers, that is an agreement between family and provider, as well as the YMCA. So Montrose School utilizes the YMCA as a sort of wraparound program offering before and after care. But those are arrangements based on family, the agreement between family and the YMCA. And then similarly, each of our collaborating provider sites, that's an arrangement between family and provider on which wraparound programs are offered to families. And a lot of that, the feedback that I've gotten from providers is it really sort of depends on which families are asking for it, because we have to look at staffing needs as well as the needs of our students and families. So there's a lot of work that goes into providing sort of those wraparound programs at each respective school. I believe those are the points that are helpful, but if there's anything else that you guys would like me to address or any questions, I'm happy to take those at your convenience.
Thanks so much, Mr. Johnson. And everyone, Mr. Johnson has prepared years ago now a preschool FAQ, and we will email the PDF of that to everybody so that you have it. It's useful to share with your clients and just to have for your own information. So, Carol, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, my question is for Mr. Johnson. With the registration process, how is that handled for families where English is not the first language?
Sure, that's a great question. Within the registration department, they do have forms that are in various languages provided to families to fill out. And then I believe there is a level that's provided if there is a need to help with the language articulation. I can certainly get, I would say can speak to that in more detail, but from my experiences, those are some of the resources that are provided.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else have a question?
Can we ask questions about general school district things?
Sure. Go ahead.
I would love to address Dr. Bing and our new superintendent. What are you planning to do about the rising levels of anti-Semitism in our school district and the fact that teachers have felt emboldened to have political displays in their classroom? I'm sure you're aware that parents in local school districts have had to create local anti-Semitism task forces, and at Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West, we've all gotten together on a monthly basis to discuss it. And sad to report that our school district has the worst reputation in our area in Essex County. I just, I don't know what to tell parents anymore. I don't know what to tell clients of mine who want to move out of the district because it's getting too bad for them. I have clients who are reticent about moving into the district, who are considering private schools. So, I know that various people in the community have reached out and that you've had some meetings, but I'm just wondering as a whole with, the community coalition on here, what can we do together to, to help this pervasive problem in our school district?
Yeah, I think that's a much bigger discussion than this platform allows. So feel free to reach out to me or Dr. Gilbert around that issue. I know we're doing some really productive and good work with community members around that. So feel free to reach out via email or call our offices.
Right. Well, we have, my kids are not in the district. My kids are grown and flown now. So I'm not in the thick of it. And the people who are in the thick of it are in touch with you. I know that, this Soma Solidarity has written you a letter that has not received a response yet. But I'm more concerned about the teachers in our school district who are, sort of insidiously, I don't want to, call out names, and this is not, like you said, it's a bigger discussion, but I do think that as realtors, we have a responsibility to help guide our clients make good decisions. And there's only so much we can say, of course, fair housing as realtors, but I'm telling you that we have people in our community who want to leave and want to pull their kids out of the school district because it's gotten so bad. So I don't know if there's any kind of, thing you can help guide us and talk to our clients about, but we're getting a bad reputation. We've had a reputation for various things, over the years, but I'm telling you that we have a bad reputation. And it's upsetting. These towns have changed a lot in the 20 years that I've been here, and I know there's people on this call who have been here much longer than I have. But the feel of our towns have changed, and it's disheartening.
We have a lot of work to do around changing the narrative around South Orange Maplewood School District. So that's intentional work that we've already started, partnering with such institutions as Seton Hall University. So as we move along with that work, we're going to be extremely transparent and really connect with both communities as well as our students and teaching staff.
Thanks, Amy, for the question.
I'm sorry?
I just said thank you for the question. And hopefully you and Mr. Bing can follow up on that, and we'll follow up also. We have a few other questions in the chat. One says that there's been a lot of chatter lately that the algorithm isn't really used, that it's more of a random lottery. Sarah, is that about the integration of all elementary, or is that just a preschool question? That was Sarah O'Neill. Are you still here?
Move on to the next one.
Okay, next one is, Jill asked, how many kids apply for preschool and what percent are accepted? So how close are we to universal? Mr. Johnson, you said our universal number was 1,000. What are we at now?
That is correct. So our universal number is 1,000. Currently, we're approximately 471. That's inclusive of our self-contained and special students with special education in their programming as well.
So we're about halfway there.
Yeah, we're just about halfway there. That is correct.
And then she asked if it was free for everyone. It is free, correct?
That is correct. It's free preschool programming, 6-hour day for everyone.
Okay. And then this is a question, I don't know who will be able to answer that, possibly Dr. Gilbert. Has the district or the towns done a traffic study on Prospect? And if there is a plan for pedestrian safety or more busing? I don't know if you, well, you must know. There was a recent accident there where a car accident where 2 children were hit on their way to school.
Actually, I know Mr. Bing's done some work around that, so I don't want to speak for him. I'll let Mr. Bing address that.
Mr. Bing, do you have an answer for that one? I can't see Mr. Bing. Okay.
Well, I can say until he comes on. I know that he's had especially since the accident, I know we've had conversations with the PD and others. I know we meet with the chiefs of police, and I know that there's always been concern, especially around there. Here he comes. Mr. Bing, the question was around the conversation surrounding Prospect and where around traffic studies and stuff like that.
Yeah, we just met with both mayors around that incident. We're developing a safety campaign, not only for walkers, but for drivers. And we are looking, I think our last audit of hazardous routes was done about 2 years ago. I think we're looking to do that every 5 years. It's something we're investigating. But as Kevin noted, we work very closely with the police. in both towns. We walk the routes. We have our own director of security and safety who also walks those routes. We had no incidences at the start of the year in regards to walking. I think part of our work, one is around the technology side of the house. If you have driven around this town, you'll see kids with their heads down, earbuds in, looking at phones. That's something we need to address on our end, which we started that work. Also, we're working with both towns to develop a unified map of crosswalks and crossing guards that can be used by our parents and guardians. But I would look out for a safety campaign, probably going to be launched within the next month.
Thank you. And then Dr. Gilbert, that question about the algorithm was for the whole III. So it was that Sarah says there's a lot of chatter that the algorithm isn't really used, that it's more of a random lottery. How can we respond? The answer is that that's not true, correct?
Absolutely. That's the only one way to answer that. That's not correct. All of our students, all of our incoming kindergarten students, and all of our rising sixth graders go through the algorithm.
Correct. And every new family.
And every new family that comes in within those grade bands that are going through intentional integration at the time. That's correct.
Yeah. Oh, and Jill just added that a traffic study on our own. I assume, Jill, you mean by the school district and not from the town, would be helpful. Okay, does anybody else have a question? Oh, Kelly asks, is busing provided for preschool? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, busing is currently provided for preschool for those who live the mileage away between home and school. I believe it's 1.75 miles. I don't have the exact number. It changed a little while ago, but yes, it is available.
I think it's 1.25.
1.25. Oh, you have it. 1.25 is 1.25 for elementary schools.
Yep. So any student
and pre-K.
Any student who resides that distance between provide access to transportation.
And also for kids who have it in their IEP, correct?
Right. So that's different. It's based on their programming, and that's determined, based on their needs.
Okay, great. Any more questions? It looks like not. But then let me go back and see if I have any other. Oh, my last slide. I just wanted to tell you guys about our upcoming events. We have our, oh, sorry, Anne, you have a question?
I'm sorry. I was trying to get myself off mute. It was giving me a hard time. Yes, I have a question also related to transportation. It's my understanding that there are children who are still not arriving at school on time, and today is October 16th. The bus routes are not working efficiently, and they're not getting children to school on time. I'm not referring to children who are walking or getting driven by their own parents. I'm referring to children on the bus. So I'm curious as to what level of attention is that issue getting? Is the district aware that it's an issue? I would think that would be at the top of the list of things to take care of as far as transportation goes, because we're well into the school year now.
I think is that a Dr. Gilbert question? I know you've been riding the buses. Do you want to answer that, or Mr. Bing?
So yeah, transportation has been on top 2 of our list since the start of the year. We had a tragedy in late summer. Our director of transportation suddenly got ill and passed away, which impacted many of us personally. And on the professional side of the house, obviously, we had a very small department. It was him and another individual who ran the transportation. Therefore, we were in a bit of a hole with his passing. We had to do some Band-Aid work at the start of the year. We have now recently partnered with Essex Regional consortium to take over our busing, and they have drastically improved many of the routes and stops. They're continuing that work. We're down to about, I believe it's 2 routes right now that are still giving us some issues, and we're looking to now get another bus to address the lateness of the one route, which should address it completely, and we should have little to no transportation issues once that occurs. Come January, we're starting our work for 25, 26. We are intentionally looking at the entire transportation infrastructure, and we'll be looking to restructure our routes and restructure our stops, and then that may involve changing start and end times for our schools. We haven't landed on anything as of yet, but we are going to start that work come January, so we can implement it in 25, 26. We have been really innovative around transportation. We recently launched an app. The app has the ability for parents to have their electronic bus ticket, and second, it also is a geolocator. The rollout of that app will be complete in another 2 weeks, so all parents can set a geolocation for their child's or children's bus and know when it's arriving at their stop.
Thank you. So then finally, our upcoming events, we have our candidates debate on Tuesday, October 29th, which I think is the last debate for the BOE election. And that is the only debate focused exclusively on issues of racial equity and integration. And we will have our preschool open house soon, and that is in November. Dr. Gilbert, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, before you close the call, I just wanted to clear up the information around the SES tiers. I don't know if I said that clearly, but I did validate that SES tier 1 is our lowest tier, SES tier 2 is our middle tier, and then SES 3 is our highest tier. I don't know if I said that correctly the first time or not, but I just confirmed that that's what our tiers are. And I didn't want to leave this call if the information was given wrong.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I see Mr. Draper is on the call. He just put a message in the chat, and Mr. Draper is the school district's new communications director. Do you want to quickly pop on and introduce yourself before we close out?
Absolutely. Hi. I'll turn my camera on. My name is Ishaya Draper. Very great to meet you all. I hail from Mercer County. Lawrenceville, New Jersey is a very similar community and makeup. And actually, when I first came here to South Orange and Maplewood, our Achieve Foundation is really close to the Lawrenceville Education Foundation. So I think that already marks a really close relationship and similarity between our two communities. When I was in Lawrenceville, I was really close with our realtors and maintained a really solid bond whenever there was updates to the community at large, especially around community-based activities and changes that the school district was conducting. So I look forward to also continuing that here. And you are a really great, amazing lifeline in our community. So whatever I can do to help you really inform prospective residents of our really great municipalities of how great we are, please let me know, and I will be happy to share great news and other details that could help you in your efforts.
Thank you so much and welcome. I believe one of Mr. Draper's first priorities is our website, which is always an issue. So hopefully that is one of the things that will be fixed pretty soon. Nancy, sorry to put you on the spot. Did you want to close us out? Nancy, you are on mute. Nancy is the executive director of the coalition.
I'm sorry, I was on mute and then I didn't see my photo. Here I am. Thank you all for coming. I think everything that we wanted to share with realtors who also share information about the community with their clients was shared by Jocelyn. And I hope that this was valuable information for you. And we look forward to hearing back from you and your colleagues about future issues that you would like to see either the schools committee specifically or the Community Coalition on Race work with you on as we continue to attract people to what we aspire to be, a stably racially integrated, inclusive, and equitable community. And we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you. And thank you so much, everybody. And thanks especially to Mr. Bing, Dr. Gilbert, Mr. Johnson, for sharing your time and all that information with us. Thank you so much. And if anybody, again, as Nancy said, if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to us. Audrey emailed you. You can send her an email or send one to Carol and I if you have questions for the schools committee. And thank you so much for your time today.